Hello, welcome, Marlene here. Today we're doing something a little different. We'll be decorating some donuts. No recipe today, just decorating. If you want the recipe, you'll find it on the back slide as well as in the description box. The recipe is by Renee Connor Cake Design. I made these a few weeks back. I was craving them, so I decided to make them again. But this time I thought I'd make a Thanksgiving video for you guys. And so on to the step-by-step tutorial. Here it's difficult to see, but I'm working with a sheet of white wafer paper, which I'm airbrushing in different fall colors. And then I'm using a paper hole punch. Once the sheet is completely dry, don't do it until the sheet is completely dry. And then I'm just punching out a whole bunch of different leaves. I have two size punch, so I'm using this one and then a small maple leaf one I have. And then once you're done with all your leaves, you can put them in an airtight container for the actual decorating process, which will happen in a little bit. Here are my little pumpkins that I made yesterday, and I'm just with an edible marker. This is Americolor. It has a pretty big tip, and so it makes kind of painting easier. And I'm just painting the pumpkin stem in brown. There. Just run through your batch. Now when you airbrush the orange, it won't cover the brown because it's darker, but if you start coloring the orange, let's say you colored them, airbrush them before you do the stem, well, the marker will activate the orange and you're going to be touching the color. You could mess them, so you're just better to do them bare like this and come in and do the little stems. To make my little pumpkins, I used a silicone mold and satin ice fondant. I pushed them in the mold the day before and then I airbrushed them. I usually make my fondant accents in white. That way I'm not left with little clumps of random color. I have my white fondant left there for the next project. I'm not left with clumps of random color that I'm probably never going to use again. Once they're dry, you can airbrush them and then put them in a container so that they don't get dusty, and they'll be ready to use for your project. And here's the little pumpkin. You can see there's a little leaf here which is orange, which doesn't really look very nice. So right on top of that, I'm piping some green royal icing on there, and the little orange just offers some support, and then we get to have our color without too much effort instead of painting it on. Since we airbrushed, I'm trying to prep my stuff a bit so that I don't have to place each leaf when I've actually baked my donuts. And so I'm adding 3 little wafer things here, and then with a bit of royal icing, I'm securing everything together, and I'll be able to peel that off the parchment paper after it's dry, and I'll have like a quick little chopper that I can put on my donut. I'm going to be putting my donuts on here. I have parchment paper underneath just to facilitate the cleanup when it drips and all that. Have a paper towel here as well. Just want to show you these tools. Where's my other one? These are at Michael's usually around Christmas. These are for chocolate, to scoop things out of the chocolate if you're dipping or coating things. And they're usually pretty pricey. I can't recall exactly the price, but this is the holiday version. So look out for these during the liquidation. I got mine half off, I think even more, like 60% off last year. And they're exactly the same as the regular ones if you go in the cake aisle, just a different colored handle. So little tip for you there. And now I've got my glaze for my donuts. And I'm going to see if it's too thick. The thicker it is, the thicker coating you'll have on your actual donuts. If it's really runny, then most of it should drip off and you won't have a really heavy coat. You can see here on my spoon that it is coating quite a bit, so I think I'm going to add a bit more water to it. All right, we're ready to dunk these. This one, I'm putting the donut face down in the icing, and then I'm just using this nice little tool here to kind of lift it out. And now the icing will drip off of the donuts. I didn't add any color to the icing. I wanted it to look natural, so it's just the maple essence that's adding a bit of like a ivory kind of color to it, which I like. It looks natural. I didn't want it to look super artificial. Here are the donuts I'm decorating. As you can see, they've come together quite cute. And now I'm just going to be writing on these. I'm working upside down for you guys just because I can't really write these words upside down. And so you're following the curve of the donut here. So I'm starting with thankful. And just take your time. You can practice first on a piece of paper to make sure your font is the way you like it. And there. And on this one here, let's write grateful. And over here, I'll do blessed on this one. And if you're not very good at writing, you can just do like a twig wreath. You see, like that, just go a few times around. And then while this is wet, you can sprinkle it so that you can stick on a few little kind of like looking flowers. Just like that. And here I'm just adding a little dollop, which will secure my little pumpkin. And if you want, if you've cut with your punch, if you had some smaller leaves, you can just kind of stagger them around the wreath for a more kind of festive fall look. The perfect decoration. Whoops. I should be using tweezers, but here, let me try to rescue that. There. I had a bit of icing on the end of my needle, and so I could go and pick it up. And now we're just finalizing the wreath here. I'm adding some branches right like that. There, and then here I'm securing one of the pumpkin little leaf clusters that I made yesterday. See how fast it is to add them once they were made in advance? Makes the day so easy if you take a little bit of time to do advanced prep. And if you want, you can add a few little smaller wafer leaves to those branches. If you had a punch to make them smaller, then you can just add a few around like that. Here you can see a kind of like simpler version if you don't want to bother with the pumpkin. So I'm just again doing kind of like a twig wreath loose around the donut like that. And then I'm just dropping on the wafer paper around the donut. The wafer paper isn't too bad to bite onto. Here are the completed donuts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think I forgot to mention these are pumpkin flavored donuts with a maple glaze. Again, you'll find Renee's recipe on the back slide
and in the description box. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads, and I'll see you next time.